Welcome to the lesson on applying payments to AR invoices. I'm currently at the Job Master Pro main menu, and I'm going to click into the AR Center by clicking the AR button on the toolbar. Now before I can apply payments, I have to find a customer, so I can find the customer as I would from any of the screens where you can find customers, by their short name, by their address, any which way you need to find a customer. And by the way, you can use the go-to to come here too from Customer Center. So once this customer is displayed in Customer Center, look for the go-to and select Go to AR Center to come right here. Okay? It's kind of a neat shortcut. Now on this screen, Cobra is showing us all of the open invoices right now for this customer. There are 15 of them, and they have all different dates. It shows you the original invoice amount, the current open, so if there were any partial payments, you might see this to be a little less than the invoice amount. How much is still open on tax, how much of the invoice is retainage, all of that. And we can manage all of that right here. The payments, moving retainage around if we accidentally forgot to bill for retainage, all of that kind of thing. So let's start slowly. Let's just record a payment to an invoice. What we can do is select the invoice on the list that we want to record a payment to. Let's select one without retainage. When I select the payment button on the toolbar, the payment window comes open, where I actually record my payment. Now I want to show you a cool thing. If you accept credit card payments, what you can do is click into the CC Options button at the lower right and enter your credit card reference. So every time you record a credit card payment, it'll put that reference in this reference field. Not only that, when you record a credit card payment and you update your checkbook, credit cards now will be separated into their own deposit from check deposits. So that's kind of a neat option. It's fairly new, and this is the way that you can automate it. So just a kind of a mental note there. But as we come into this invoice payment window, Cobra puts the open amount of the invoice in the pay amount. Now I can accept that, or I can enter a partial payment just by typing over that. So if I received a partial payment and I press enter, Cobra's going to think that that partial payment goes down here unless all that's left on the invoice is either tax or retainage. So Cobra will do some thinking for you and try to distribute your payment accordingly. So I'm just going to record this payment. And notice that because the whole payment is, the whole pay amount that I entered is in the AR payment area, when I press enter, it goes right down to the save, and the payment is done. Now, on that invoice, I still have the rest of the invoice amount open right here. Now, if I take another invoice, let's take this one, and I'll select payment. I just want to record the whole payment. I can just press enter, entering what I need to. It's important to press enter though, because then Cobra makes sure that the distribution of the payment is done appropriately. So when the save button's highlighted, you can either press enter or click on it. But since it's already highlighted, why not just press enter? Let's talk about an invoice with retainage on it, like this one. If I click on it and I click payment, what Cobra will do is show you how much of the invoice balance is in your AR as far as being aged. This is, but this portion called the retainage portion is not being aged. So that's what happens when you do an invoice with retainage, like on a progress billing. The job is set up with the retainage percentage, and when you invoice it with that retainage percentage, Cobra will automatically track the retained portion of the invoice in your AR. And this is how it looks when we do a payment on it. So if I wanted to pay just $9,000, because that's all we expected in initially, check number. See, notice that Cobra knew that the $9,000 was to be applied here against the open balance, and it zeroed out anything over here. So as I press enter, until the save button is highlighted, and I'll just press enter on the save button. No need to pick up the mouse. Excellent. Now that one's all paid off except for the retained balance. See that? It's because your current open equals your retainage. Now, if you wanted to know how to reverse payments or move part of your open balance to retained balance, all of that can be found in the help system. So if I click into the help system and I type retain, what I'm looking for is a topic called moving invoice amounts in or out of retained balance. If you double click on this, this has a full topic on how to move invoice amounts in or out of the retained balance area. There's also another nice topic that I know you're going to need one day. Let's see if I can figure out what it is. If I just type trouble, short for troubleshooting, there are a number of topics that relate to the whole system. So troubleshooting is a great topic if you want to find out about how to do certain things. Like if you paid the wrong invoice, what do? This is very common. So you can double click on this and learn how to reverse out payments and straighten out your accounts receivable basically. So I'm going to exit out and let's take a look at an invoice now. Remember this invoice number. What we're going to do is we're going to go into Billing Center, bring up that invoice, and I want to show you a couple things. At the lower right, it shows you the last payment date and the last pay amount. That's kind of cool. Now if I go into the accounting records, I can see a lot of information about this invoice during the life of the invoice. Now what I usually do is look at the type column, because that tells me as an accountant what happened during the life of this invoice. The INV records were generated when the invoice was first printed. You probably remember that from one of my lessons. Now whenever you enter a payment against an invoice, it creates PMT records. And there's always a minimum of 2 accounting records for each transaction. Notice the ones that I just did today. These 2 payment transactions. So this one, the cash one that hits your cash, will update into your cash account in the checkbook and your actual checkbook manager when you update it as well. So these accounting transactions are very important, and now you kind of learn what happens when you do something against an invoice. This ends the lesson on applying payments to AR invoices.